wanting to experience more, and knowing that we're not meant to do this alone.
Good morning. Today we are in episode 21 of Chronicles of the High-Powered Female CEO, and I'm so excited today to bring you Wendy Sterling. Welcome, Wendy.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Wendy, tell us how people typically know you.
Sure. Well, so I am the founder of the Divorce Rehab, and I call myself a divorce recovery specialist as well as a life transition specialist. And the way that I created this new company and this career for myself happened about 6 years ago now, where I unexpectedly discovered that my now ex-husband was having an affair. And at the time, I was working in corporate America, 20 years into a very successful career, a manager leading a multi-million-dollar region. And all of a sudden, my home life just came crashing down around me. And it was a wake-up call that I needed to be able to realize that not only was my impending divorce happening for me, but that I was truly meant to be doing more in this world. And that's really where my journey began and where the Divorce Rehab came to be. I discovered the world of life coaching and immediately dove in by not only hiring a life coach, but also enrolling myself in the program. And within 15 months, became a certified life coach. I also go bigger, I go home. So I decided to quit my corporate career to found my company because coaching was really the only vehicle that I was gifting myself with that actually propelled me forward, that created a vision of a life I wanted to have. Therapy wasn't getting me there, and self-help books, podcasts, while they were great, it just wasn't doing it. And nothing really existed around what it was that I needed. So I decided to create it for myself and to create it for everyone else, because no one should have to go through divorce feeling alone and not having the tools that they need to be able to step into their identity and voice, to reclaim it, and to actually start designing a life that they choose. And so for me, I also dove head in on some spiritual psychology courses here in Santa Monica. I live in Los Angeles, and those were incredibly valuable to me. I also decided that it was appropriate for me to enroll in a certified divorce specialist class because I wanted to understand all the aspects of divorce so that I could educate my clients. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a financial planner. However, I know language and I know information to be able to help my clients to go to those experts with information for them to make the best choice as they're navigating a very unknown process. I've also, I'm an energy guided woman and highly spiritual, and I stumbled upon the area of theta healing. So that was a way for me to really finally disconnect energetically from my ex-husband. And so again, I got myself certified. So I'm also an advanced theta healer. So all of those modalities put together make up my 5-step program within Divorce Rehab. And it really aims to accelerate the healing process for my clients to be able to really step into the vision of the life that they want, regardless of where it is that they are. And I am the one that help them to see that vision and to create that path to get there so much more quickly than doing it by yourself.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And thank you for the work that you do in the world. It's so important. Yeah, and so many aspects and facets of what you speak to is really, really huge. I have seen over and over in my work that when a woman steps courageously into her vision, what she really wants to be experiencing in her life, everything she holds most precious and sacred to her falls under attack. And I think our marriages are one of those key places. How do you see that play out in your work?
Yeah, I think so many of us define ourselves by the roles that we play in our life. And I think that, for me, especially when I was working in corporate, I knew exactly who I was. And when my personal life came crashing down around me, now mind you, I discovered my ex-husband's affair a week before I started a brand new job. And I had to go into the workplace. I mean, faking it, pretending like life was great and everything was happy. And it was it was the hardest job I think I've ever done. And I think that one of the things that we don't realize is when one area of our life is being so greatly impacted, there's this ripple effect that happens throughout other areas of our life. And I mean, let's be honest, we can't be, all in all the time and wear all these hats simultaneously. And I know that as a type A personality, it was something that I prided myself on. But what my divorce really taught me was that at the end of the day, what I had lost was really the core of who I was. And because of that, I actually wasn't showing up authentically in every other area of my life, including my career. And I think that we sometimes are afraid of, the emotional side of ourselves, right? We think that we can't mix, business is business. There's no emotion in business. And I do agree with that. However, our emotions are what make us who it is that we are. And I'm not saying, cry at work, and throw a tantrum in a meeting. But what I'm saying is you get to express, right? To me, feelings are about expression. And I don't think I ever necessarily really understood how it is that you get to express yourself in the workplace. And I didn't realize that until I went through my own divorce. And when I started actually getting in touch with a lot of emotions that I didn't necessarily have names for. And so for me, when my divorce, literally pulled the rug out from underneath my life, it also made me consider, like, what is important to me? What do I want to be doing with my time? Like, life is short. Nothing's a guarantee. And if I'm going to be on this earth for however long, the spirit and God have me here, I want to make an impact in people's lives. And I realized that I wasn't doing that because I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And when my cup isn't being filled in all areas of my life, then I'm really not being authentic in how it is that I'm showing up. And I think that a lot of us sacrifice certain elements of who we are for the greater good. And I know that I did that. Never again. Never again. That's one thing I've learned and I have committed to myself that will not happen again.
Sacrificing the core of who we are for the greater good. That is the statement of the century, isn't it? Because when you're in it, you don't even necessarily recognize that that's what you're being asked to do.
Right.
Right. And it's like you don't see it until you don't recognize yourself in the mirror. And then it's like, wait a minute. And whoever thought that would be what's best for the greater good, right?
I would have never. I mean, there's so much I've learned more in my 40s. Okay. And I'm turning 46 this year. So I have learned more in the last 5 years of my life than I think I did in the first 40 years of my life. And I'm well educated. I went to UCLA, clearly I have credentials to be doing the work that I'm doing today. And I have learned more important life skills that play out in business than I ever learned, even going through climbing the corporate ladder. There's a lot I didn't know that I now do. And I see, it's funny because sometimes I have those moments where I'm like, God, if I knew all of this 10 years ago, I would have been an even more successful, and I was extremely successful at the time. Right. So, but again, I think that, we're meant to learn things when, the universe hands them to us, right? I wasn't ready to see that my ex-husband was being unfaithful. It had been years. And I chose to look the other way. I chose to make excuses. Hindsight is 2020, of course, but it's also like you're not ready to see or to understand or to learn things until you're at that point. So I always say, like, it's best to just know that you've learned them. Who cares when, right? I could sit here and beat myself up and say, well, God, why did I have to learn this in my 40s? Well, because that's exactly when I was supposed to learn it, right? And I don't look back on my life and think like, oh, I made all these mistakes. Like, I look back and am so grateful for my life because I wouldn't be where I am today, And I still, my ex-husband and I, like, we did not get along the first 2 years of our divorce. And now we are very close. We co-parent beautifully. I care about him. Like, we've got two amazing human beings that we share. And, the one thing that I think is something that a lot of women don't embrace is it's not a waste, right? The years before are not something to look back upon with regret. It wouldn't get you to where you are today. And to flip the script on that and see that as a gift, and that you're now open, right? You're at a place where you're open to receive. And then it's like, okay, now what are you going to do with it? Now what impact are you going to have? What changes are you going to make? Whose lives are you going to impact, right? Not just your own.
So beautiful. So, okay, you're going along. You start this new corporate career after just discovering the unfaithfulness of your husband. And and then at some point down the road, you make the decision to completely leave corporate and transition to becoming a coach. And let's face it, still, even though there are coaches making millions all over the globe, the world sees coaching as like you're going rogue. I mean, people all the time are, your little business. People will say stuff, right, to women. And did you have people around you who thought that you were like having a psychotic break or something?
Yes, I did. It's funny because, like, my attorney, everyone was like, "You're doing what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm quitting my job." And they're like, you just filed for divorce. My parents trying to be supportive, right? My mom, may she rest in peace. She passed away a couple of months ago, but I remember telling my mom, and I just remember her, she did this like, oh, that's an interesting choice. And then it was like, well, how is this going to work? My best friend was like, what are you doing? My boss, who was my mentor for such a long time in my career, was like, what are you doing? And to be honest, I used to be somebody who cared about what other people thought. I lived most of my life that way. And to me, my divorce was my clean break from that identity that I was based on what other people saw me as or what I thought other people wanted me to be. And for me, it was about stepping into my new identity, stepping into who I wanted to be. And who I wanted to be was not somebody in corporate. 5 years before that, I was complaining to my now ex-husband. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm worn down. Like, I worked in ad sales. It's cutthroat. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of taking out these 20-year-olds, to concerts and getting them drunk and, taking them out to dinner. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And it was the first time where I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to make a decision. And I also told myself, I said, Wendy, you've got 2 years. Okay, you're going to do this. And you've got 2 years to replace your income. I gave myself 2 years to build a business. Now, I don't know if your audience knows, but 6% of entrepreneurs make a 6-figure salary. 2% hit 7 figures. And I said, okay, I'm going to be in that 6% club in 2 years. And there has never been a time, and I ask this to my clients as well, there has never been a time, or has there ever been a time where you've bet on yourself and you've lost? Well, I can tell you that there has never been a time where I haven't bet on myself and I haven't won. And so for me, it was like, I'm doubling down and I'm going after this, like, full guns blazing. And I hit 6 figures in 18 months and I never looked back. And and all of my friends were just like, holy crap, how did you do this? And then I've got all these people like, how did you do this? How'd you get onto the divorce scene? How did you blow up bigger than, a lot of these people? And how are you doing this? And da, 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 da. And the secret is that, you have to invest in yourself, right? You invest in your transformation. You invest in learning from people who know how to do the things that you don't know how to do. Now, granted, I have a marketing background, right? I was in ad sales. I have that background. And I also, essentially creating and building a region for these corporations. I was an entrepreneur. I just didn't really realize that that was something that I was doing. And I invested in myself. I invested in my business. And sure, the return on, investment took a little bit of time to build up. And there was never a time where I looked at my bank account and went, oh, I should throw in the towel. I just kept looking at my bank account going, nope, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. It's going to go up. I know it's done. It's done. It's done. And I just kept my eyes facing forward and looked at every new collaboration, every new person that came into my life. I reached out to a lot of people to introduce myself and just started, you have to start. And I used to be a perfectionist and I always wanted it to be perfect. And I realized that that is not the way businesses are built. Like, you have to fall down. I learned a lot of stuff. I made mistakes along the way and I learned what not to do again. And it taught me what to do instead. And so for me, I really got to prove everybody wrong everyone thought I was crazy, including my ex-husband. But he was like, okay, well, good luck. Like, good luck, right? Meanwhile, here I am in a divorce and, not knowing what I'm walking away with. And at the same time, I didn't care because I'm like, I can do this. Like, I can start over. Like, I'm not going to be defined by my divorce. I'm not going to be defined by my bank account. I'm not going to be defined by anybody's opinions of myself anymore.
Wow. So now fast forward to today and, give us a little snapshot into your life, a day in the life.
Well, which day, the custody day or the non-custody day? But I'll do kind of a hybrid. So, my day, I have a morning ritual and that does not waver regardless of whether I have my children or not. I wake up and I meditate. I have my lovely cup of coffee and then I work out every morning. So I work out for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. I journal, I write gratitude. I usually write 3 prompts that I'm grateful for that day. And then I, make myself breakfast. And if it's a day that I have my kids, I wake them up, make them breakfast, get them off to school, come home. That's usually when, I sit at my desk. And a lot of what I do during the day is really leaning into my intuition around what it is that I get to create. I also have a podcast, which is called The Divorce Woman's Guide. So there's a day every week that I do a bunch of I record like a bunch of different episodes so that I batch them so that I don't have to record them, so frequently, especially coming into the summertime. I meet one-on-one with clients. I also do group calls. I teach. I'm currently creating a summit that is free and it's launching June 9th, all about loving life after divorce. And I've got one day of expert interviews and the next 2 days of me teaching my method to everybody. Because I'm an entrepreneur, and the days I do have my kids, I pride myself on being able to pick them up from school, which, for the first probably, my entire marriage, I had a nanny up until I separated and, or really not separated, but when I filed for divorce and started my business and I got rid of childcare and then I got to be the hands-on mom. So I get to create my schedule around my kids' schedule. Now that they're older, they're 16 and 12, they're very self-sufficient when they get home from school. So I'm able to, come back on and do things. I love guesting on other podcasts. I've been featured on TV. I write articles. Like I said, I've been on other people's podcasts. And really for me, it's about how can I how can I speak into the vision of what my mission on this earth is? And that's really to change the stigma around divorce from shame to empowerment. And so for me, that's really the lens by which I create all of my content. How can I support people regardless of where it is that they are? How can I show them that their divorce can be the most empowering experience that they go through? And I truly want to be the example of what is possible. I hear people say all the time, oh, I don't have any money. Oh, I'm too old. There's all these excuses. I don't have time. Those are stories. And if you believe them enough, they're going to hold you back for your entire life. And Lord knows I let them hold me back until the day I decided to change my story. And so a lot of what I try to give and to talk about is you have the power, you have the choice, you have the decision to change your story at any given time. It's never too late. You are in control of your time, and you just have to start. And the hardest part is asking for help. And it's easy and it's hard. But for me, it's really, I spend my days figuring out different ways that I can support other people out there. I get these downloads every now and then where I'm like, okay, I'm going on Instagram stories and I feel like talking about this. Or, the other day I have these beautiful sound bowls that I bought when I did a retreat. I also lead retreats. And so I found these beautiful sound bowls and I was like, oh, I'm going to play my sound bowl and post that on social media for people to hear the power of these bowls. And so for me, I'm very intuitively led in alignment with what my mission is.
Love that. And then how about, you didn't mention, but is there a honey in the picture?
Oh, yes. There is a honey in the picture. You're so cute, Melisa. Yes, there is. I took my time because I really wanted to work on myself. I was very conscious of not wanting to create the same mistakes that I made in my marriage. It took me some time to recognize, take ownership, and take responsibility for how I showed up. And so, about 20 months ago, I very unexpectedly wasn't looking for, met the man that I am wanting to spend the rest of my life with. We met on Bumble, of all dating apps work, guys. We met on Bumble during COVID, and we had this really beautiful relationship on the phone that really blossomed when we finally met in person. And we've taken our time. It's probably the healthiest relationship I've ever had. We talk about anything and everything. Even still, it's just, he's my person and he's my best friend. And we're merging families, and I haven't even you got the exclusive, Melisa. He's moving in this summer with his son, and we're getting ready for that. And it's beautiful, and it's, anything is possible. I'm not saying I'm getting remarried. I take my time and I'm very thoughtful, especially as it relates. I've got 2 boys, they've been a part of this process, and they're always front and center in my mind. And, I haven't done anything without keeping them in mind and what's in their best interest. So the relationship navigated slowly and on pace with how our kids were opening up to the possibility of us becoming, a new family unit. And it's awesome. I'm beaming because he's everything I've always dreamed of, and I love him a lot. So yeah.
So I want to ask, because again, the intention here is to really know your heart.
Yes.
What are the things right now, as you just ask your own heart, what are the things that you hold most precious and sacred?
Ooh, there's a couple of answers for me on this one. My voice and my intuition and my kids. My family has always been, I'm going to get a little teary. My family has always been very important to me. And in order for me to really be where I am today, I wouldn't be where I am today without their support. my sons always fight over who's president of my fan club because they are just my cheerleaders. They have my heart whole. Like I've never known unconditional love the way, you're a mom, you know what that's like too. But the two other things that I will never stray from and are a piece of me now, are my voice and my intuition, because they literally have gotten me to where I am today. And I will never disconnect from that again.
And I know from our previous conversation, and you mentioned too, your mom. I just can't, like, there's something, it's like we've got to bring in your mom.
Sure.
And she passed a few months ago, you said?
Yeah. So there's a lot of, I don't know, synchronicity. I don't know what the right word is, but my mom, so the day that I asked my now ex-husband for a divorce, that happened in the morning. And later that afternoon, my mom was rushed to the hospital and they discovered that she had close to stage 4 ovarian cancer. And so my mom's cancer battle aligned with me ending, a 22-year relationship with my best friend. And I know that I gave my mom a reason to fight. I know that she gave me a reason to stay strong. And she shouldn't have lived 4.5 years that she did with as advanced cancer as she did. And I know that the time that she passed, she knew I was in a good place. She knew that I was on my feet and my divorce was finalized. And we still had a couple years of financial stuff that we were still ironing out or renegotiating. And my mom knew that I was in really good hands. And I remember telling her, because I was with her when she passed, I remember telling her that, I was going to be okay, and that, she didn't have to fight anymore, because it got to the point where it was so painful to see how much pain she was in her final stages. And, I feel her every day. I connect with her. She sends me signs and I know that it's her. I've smelled her perfume before, which I know some people have experienced themselves. And I know that she's with me. And I have this belief, and I've talked about this with one of my coaches, is that I do believe that sometimes people leave us because they can best serve us in other places. And I know that where my mom is, that she is still supporting me and serving me, and in a way that she wasn't able to before. And so, she's with me every day. I feel her. I feel her presence all day, every day. And it's taught me a lot about, resilience and courage, and, the process of grief. Had I not been through my divorce and managed that grief, I don't think I would be able to navigate this grief the way that I have. And I don't mean that it's better or worse. I just mean that it's taught me to lean in and to just, tear up on a live show and not care, right? Because I get to feel. There's good days, and there's some days where I'm like, I have to cancel my appointments because I'm having a bad day. And I'm okay with that. And I don't care what other people think. I used to, and it's a navigation of emotions. But I know she's watching over me. She's watching over my boys and my dad. And, she's an incredibly special human. And now she's my spirit angel. So she's still with me.
I think it was her that was like, we need to talk about this. And I think so powerful about grief too. Grief of a divorce, grief of the loss of a loved one, that it begs us to go into those darker or kind of softer parts of ourselves.
Yes.
But we're faced with this like powerful choice to either go there and, like you said, lean in, or go to that hard place and then just like kick into overdrive and high production and stuff. And I think that everything you've expressed shows so much about your heart, and that you've been able to dance between the two. Because there's a time when like it's all lion face, like, and that's all you're being called to do, and that's all you can do. And then there are times when it's like, no, actually, it's time to slow down. And so I just think you're a beautiful example of that. And I think it's really pertinent for women going through divorce as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And, we all deal with, there's so much that comes at us every day, right? And I think that what I've learned the most over the last, almost 6 years of what I've navigated in my life is now. You get to live each day authentic to who it is that you are. And, I don't hide my emotions from my children. Clearly age appropriate conversations about my emotions, right? And at the same time, I will always be me. I am me here. I am me on camera. I am me out in social media. Like, you're never going to see anymore, right? You're never going to see a version of me that isn't authentic. And I think that a lot of times what creates so much heartache in what women go through with divorce is that they're not allowing themselves to lean into what's coming up for them because they're in so much judgment of themselves. And a lot of that stems from the fact that they care about what other people think, right? You're in judgment because you're like, oh, what are other people going to say? Like, stop crying, right? Like, I've talked about my mom a million times and I cry every single time. And I don't sit here and go, oh, here I go crying again. No, I'm like, yeah, it sucks. Losing a mother, losing a parent is awful. It's awful. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it in any way. And I also deal with it. Right? I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, sympathize with me, like pity party me. It's like, yeah, I have to live with this for the rest of my life. And it's okay. I don't need the pity. I don't need, I'm not afraid of judgment. I get to feel what I feel when I feel it. And I really hope that a lot of women who are watching and listening, just let yourselves lean into it. Go to the bathroom if you're at the office. Like, I used to have to do that. I ran to the bathroom when I felt like a whole surge of emotions coming on, or, I would call in sick if I had to. And, I think that we tend to compress our emotions. And that's the worst thing that you can do for yourself. It's also not healthy for you, mental, physical, all of it. It's not good. So just got to feel through is the secret.
That's right. Thank you for being so authentic here today, Wendy. And guys, isn't she brilliant? Go give her a follow. We've included your link to your website in the description. So just go click on her website and you can connect with her and or connect your friends with her who are going through divorce, because we all know somebody who's going through divorce, it seems like, all the time. So yes. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you do in the world. Any last thoughts you want to share before we wrap up?
I think that the last thing, just given, kind of the theme of the show, is, if your heart is leaning you in a direction that is opposite of where you are today, get curious about it. Life is short and you deserve to live a heart-centered life. You deserve to love what it is that you're doing and to see that fear is just false evidence appearing real. It's all based on story. And I believe that you can live your vision, live your dream, no matter what. So follow your heart and embrace that life is now. And, there's never going to be the right time. You'll know when that right time is, and just to follow your heart and make your dreams come true, because I did, and I am no different than anybody else out there.
Love that. Thank you so much, Wendy. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, thanks for watching today. Oh, can we all take a deep breath and I feel like you've asked us to activate our hearts. If our hearts were hiding this morning, they can't hide anymore after watching this.
Good.
Exactly. Guys, don't miss an episode of Chronicles of the High Powered Female CEO. You can find the link to all the previous 20 episodes just above, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Melissa. Bye-bye.